what I'm saying here. Just gibbering on. Okay. Caught me having a little sneaky Friday drink there. I've skinned the shoulder and I've been reasonably generous. I've left a little bit of fat on there because, again, there's no waste with a pig. I'm going to score this and portion it up, roll it up and put it in the freezer, and you can have some scratchings, some crackling scratchings anytime you like in the next several months. If you fancy pulling that out of the freezer and put it in the oven, you can rub it with some coarse salt, really rub it well with some coarse salt. I might do a video separately about that. Score it up nicely and put it in the oven, bake it about 180 for what?
Well, it depends. I think if you're going to cut that bit in half, because it's so big, it'll probably take around about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. It's pretty quick.
Yeah, and you can make a lovely sheet of crackling for any, well, just for crackling, because it's tasty.
Friday night pub snack.
Yeah, for Friday night pub snacks. So we're going to take this, so I prepared this basically. I'm going to trim a little bit more fat off it, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to put a rub on it, and I'll take you through the ingredients in the next section of the rub. It's usually paprika based. It's pretty tasty. Paprika, salt, sugar, and one or two other ingredients, perhaps some garlic. And then I'm going to get the smoker on in the morning. I can't weigh this, unfortunately, because my my scales only goes up to 5 kilos. So I remember as they were weighing it in the butchers, it's 6 point something. And it'll take quite a long time, probably 10, 12 hours to cook this at about 225 degrees Fahrenheit. And I apologize for switching between Celsius and Fahrenheit, but that's my generation. But I will include in the details, over 50s, yeah, all right. But I will include in the details the temperatures and the timings and the ingredients so that it's straightforward. So this is a little bit more advanced. If you're starting off barbecuing or smoking, this is one of the things you'll try first. But as I did, you might get it okay, it's fine, but you'll learn from that. And there's half the fun of doing this stuff is learning through trial and error. It's going to be really tasty, whatever. It's just that, you know, if you're your own worst critic like I am when it comes to cooking or anything else, then you'll make it better every time you do it. So,
let's not go there.
All right. I'll do a bit more in the morning, show you how I'm preparing the smoker, and yeah, so we'll catch up then. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the rub, but first of all, let's talk about the meat. So this is a very large piece of pork shoulder. It's the whole pork shoulder. It's often called the Boston butt or the Boston cut. If you're in the UK, if you go and ask for a Boston cut, just make sure your butcher knows what you're talking about, or you'll end up with something that's not what you want.
What's Boston in Lincolnshire?
I've absolutely no idea which. I don't know, but if you say a Boston cut to your butcher and they go blank, then you might be at the wrong butcher. But this is a bone-in piece. It's not particularly butchered or fabricated, so it's not boned out or rolled. It's the whole, most of the part of the shoulder with the chine cut out and the bones left in. So you'll see here you've got the shoulder blade in here, which we'll use later to test whether or not it's done. Okay.
What's the chine?
Chine is the part of the spine that's left on at the top end. So they'll often just cut that off. If it's on, just cut it off yourself and use it for broth. I've got the chine in the fridge. We're going to boil up with some broth probably tomorrow. So you can see the shoulder blade in there. I've skinned this and I've left a good amount of fat on it, a reasonable amount of fat on there. I've wrapped it in cling film to keep it fresh for tomorrow. So this is about ready for the smoker. The only thing it's missing is the rub. So we're going to have a quick look at the rub now. All right. So the rub here, we have quite a lot of ingredients. So it's quite a complex rub, but it's worth doing. It's worth going out for this. If you don't have all these spices in, just get them. They're a pound or two each, and if you just collect the spices over time, it's almost no money. It's great to have them on hand when you need them. So in here I've got some paprika, I've got some salt. No, that's the salt. I've got some sugar, just regular sugar, regular granulated sugar. I've got garlic, granulated garlic, some chili, some cumin, some black pepper, some dry mustard, and some cayenne. I think that's the cayenne. And I think I've covered everything there. But there's quite a lot of spices going to this. So this is going to go, if you come back up here, this is going to go back in the fridge. Tomorrow I'm going to get the smoker on quite early, probably about 7:30, and we'll do some video for that as well to show you how I'm preparing the coals in the smoker. I'm going to mix this up now, let it blend, keep it in a little tub, and I'll rub this up first thing tomorrow as I'm getting the fire on, and that will produce a nice bark and some good flavour for the pork, so that when it comes off and we shred it, that'll mix up really nicely with the meat, and hopefully I'll have the right amount of moisture in it and it won't get dry. So pick up in the morning, and we'll get the smoker on. It's all rock and roll, isn't it?
Okay, started the fire for the smoker. That'll be ready quite soon. And what I'm going to do when it's ready is I'm going to dump it in to the smoker. And I put in about 2/3 of that around a brick so that it burns like a fuse, and that'll keep it nice and slow when I control the vents, and it'll give me a really, really long burn. The water pan's going in as well. There's the water pan, so it'll keep it moist and it'll regulate the temperature for me. So we'll go and put some rub on the pork and let that sweat it out a little bit.
I'm going to put some of this rub that we made up yesterday with all those ingredients. I'll put it in a shaker to make it a little easier. You can see I've trimmed off some of the fat, and that's ready to go. So I've left a lot of fat on because I want it to keep the meat moist and it'll render nicely and give it a good taste as well. So this particular piece of meat, it's a big old piece. This was some grass mere again. Expect to pay about 30 to 40 pounds for a cut of this kind, but it's well worth it because it feeds a lot of people and it feeds a lot of times. So it'll go into the freezer and it'll shred and go into the freezer, and it's very, very forgiving, reheating, and you can use it for several months afterwards. All right, the rub is on and the fire is getting there. So I'm going to leave that to sweat for a little while. That'll start to draw out some moisture because there's quite a bit of salt in there as well, and that'll get a bit of a sweat on. And once the smoker is at the right temperature, and we'll look at that later on, we'll get it on and leave it to its business. Right, the coals are ready, so I've dumped them into that first empty third, and it'll burn around a brick nice and slowly, like a long fuse. And there's the water pan, that's going in a few minutes, and then we'll wait for the temperature to settle down, and then we'll put the pork on. Okay, got the probe in, the water pan's in, put the lid down because I don't want too much heat to escape, and just show you here we've got the probe, and it's, before I took the lid off, it was nearly 120 degrees C. We want it to be about 135. Once it's consistently sitting at that, we'll put a little bit of this applewood on, and this is a shout out to Joe Leonard for the applewood. Thank you very much for that. That's nicely seasoned now, so that's going to flavour the smoke and flavour the pork. And as I said, once the temperature is good, we'll pop that in on the coals through that little door there, and we'll be ready to go. So just a few more minutes. Watch this space. So we've been running for about 5 hours now. I put another chunk of the seasoned applewood in there about 30 minutes ago, and that's smoking away quite nicely. So I'm going to take the lid off briefly just to check the temperature, and then put it all back again. It's already looking pretty good. Get the probe in nice and deep, but not touching the bone because that'll give a false reading. So we're up to 60 degrees Celsius, wants to get to 90. So it'll pull apart nicely and everything should be rendered off quite thoroughly by that point. So yeah, internal temperature 62-ish. Check it in 2 or 3 places, different thicknesses. Okay, yeah, good. It's coming along nicely. So that's not a heavy smoke. It looks like it at the moment, but it doesn't last for too long, and it's not overpowering. It's quite late now. It's got to be about 6 o'clock in the evening, and this is at 80 degrees internal temperature. So we're going to lift the lid on it. I've tried to keep the lid on as much as I can all day, and we're going to wrap it for the last 10 degrees because I need to get it to 90 degrees Celsius. So let's take a look, see what it looks like.
I think it's a bit later than 6.
Is it?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea what time it is.
I think it's probably about 7:30.
Okay.
Anyway.
So let's take out the probe, and we're gonna wrap this for the last 10 degrees. And then we're going to put it back in the smoker. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So we're going to put that back in the smoker. Oh, goodness me. And then we'll put the probe back in. And then when that's at 90 degrees, that should be about ready and for shredding and eating. So we'll eat when it's 90 degrees. So we'll come back then. See you later. Bye. All right, well this has hit 90 degrees. It's taken 12 and a half hours to get there. It's been a long wait, but let's see what it looks like, shall we? So it's, oh my goodness me, that looks really good.
Oh wow.
That looks pretty much perfect. So I'm just going to put my glove on here and see if I can
What are you trying to do?
just take out the bone. Oh, look at that.
Oh wow.
That's a clean bone. So that's done. So 90 degrees internal temperature Celsius is what you need to get the pork shoulder to a point where it will shred really nicely. And this bone coming out that clean is all you need to make sure that it's done. 90 degrees. If you've got a probe to let you know what's going on inside the meat, that's all you need. All right, and that's So I'm going to get the bear claws out, give it a shred, and then we'll get some eating. We transferred it to a roasting dish just to give me a bit more room because I'm going to shred this up now. I've got some bear claws here. That was a present for my birthday a few years ago. It's very, very handy. You should see how this comes apart very, very easily because it's nicely cooked. That 90 degrees is very, very important, and you can see that the pork just pulls to pieces. You can pull it apart muscle by muscle if you really want to, if you're a fan of anatomy and butchery. But this is all going to make some pulled pork, so we're going to shred it up. We're going to have some tonight, and we're going to put the rest of it in the freezer in portion sizes. And you can just see how well that's cooked. This lovely sugary, salty piece of rub that gives you a really nice bark, a really nice crust. I'm going to make the most of this while I'm on camera, because as soon as the camera goes off, oh, here we go.
Thank you.
It's not all me. I'm going to have to share it. But yeah, that's a 12-hour cook, 12.5-hour cook, and you've got a perfectly done piece of pork shoulder. Pulls apart lovely, and yeah, that'll keep us going for many, many months. Okay, so next week, what have we got? Ribs? We're going to do some ribs next week. Pork ribs on the smoker.
Oh no, it's not. It's jerk chicken.
Oh, it's jerk chicken. Oh, lovely. I haven't done jerk chicken for ages. That's a really nice dish. You'll love that. And that's only about a 45-minute to an hour cook, so you don't have to invest much time for that one. Give it a go. Chicken thighs, very, very straightforward. Scotch bonnet's my favourite chilli. But meanwhile, we've got quite a lot of meat to get through, so we'll see you next week. Bye.